Welcome to Real Life with Lee, powered by Lee Aloni South Florida Real Estate at G&E Realty Group. The show where Lee and her guests talk about everything South Florida, 24/7, 365, and why you should make it your home sweet home. Lee is a realtor, a South Florida resident since the age of 5, devoted wife and mom, and a dedicated community volunteer. Now, without further ado, here's your host, Lee Aloni.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I am Lee Aloni, your hostess for Real Life with Lee in South Florida, 24/7, 365. And this is the show you come to when you want to learn all about the real stuff, the real juicy stuff, the real fun stuff, and the real stuff in South Florida. I'm a realtor in our family-owned real estate company by the name of G&E Realty Group in the heart of Davie. And I also talk about not just real estate, I talk about and discuss and learn and share about the people that live in our wonderful South Florida, all the cities and towns. And today I am interviewing my friend and my peer and colleague, Debbie Iten from the Iten Agency in Davie, Florida. I'd like to give you a big welcome. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Hi, Lee. Thank you for having me.
So happy you're here. Thank you for joining me. It's been a struggle. We're trying to, put together our two schedules here. It's not so easy in the insurance and real estate world, So it's I'm really happy that we finally made it work today. So,
absolutely.
Yes. Debbie, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Debbie Iten first before we talk about your company? I always like to learn about the people. The people are most important.
We are. Well, I'm born and raised in South Florida, third generation. I was born and raised in Miami, the Norland area. My family all grew up in that area. My mom was born and raised down in the Grove area. And my grandfather was chief of police of Dade County when it was actually Dade County Sheriff's Office years ago.
Oh,
and
wow.
We relocated to Broward County, and I've been up in Broward probably since I was about in 11th grade. I won't count how many years ago that was, but been in Broward County since then.
Yeah.
And we live in Southwest Ranches, and I have 3 kids and have been married to my husband now for 35 years. And
wow.
We have Iten Insurance Agency that we established back in 1992.
Wonderful. So did you establish Iten Agency in 1992, or was it your parents, or what's the whole story there?
So back in the day, my father-in-law worked for Nationwide Insurance. He was a captive agent for Nationwide, and my husband was working for him. And in 1992, he stepped out on his own and opened our own agency. It's actually Randall Iten Insurance Agency, and it's a DBA of Iten Agency. And we've been doing it. We were with Nationwide until 2007. When Nationwide decided that they would move all of their captive agents to independent agent status. So that meant that we no longer just represented Nationwide, we represented every company that was out there. And so it's been a big change, but it's been really good. It gives us a lot more opportunity to help our clients and have more options for them.
Yeah, I was going to say, it really, opened up the umbrella there. You have more things underneath your umbrella, more things to offer to your clients. That's great. And your grown kids, they work at your agency now, yes?
Two of our 3 kids work in here. My son, Joe, who is 31, and he does the commercial insurance side of the business. And he does some of the management in our IT. And then my daughter, Lauren, who is going to be 28, she works on the personal line side of the agency and also does some management stuff. And I think if they had their druthers, we would be out the front door and they would be just kind of running things on their own at this point in time. And our youngest daughter is not in the agency. She's just graduated from college and is deciding if she's going to go on for her master's or go into a veterinary medicine program right now.
Wow. I want to talk to you about that. Not specifically about your daughter, but one of your passions, Debbie, is horses and things of that nature. Can you expand upon that? Let us know,
Yeah, I grew up, when we grew up down in North Miami, my grandmother took me when I was a really little kid. There
Yeah.
used to be a farm near us, and I used to go on Saturdays. I can remember being very little, and she would take us over there, and I just got bit by the horse bug. And my whole life have been around horses. I got my very first two horses when I turned 16. A family was getting a divorce, and we got a mom and a baby, and that started my path down it. And my kids have always had horses and ridden, and out in the
Mhm.
ranches we have a barn on the property, so we have them out there. And I have one of my little favorites is my miniature donkey. So we
Yeah.
we
She's always telling me I got to go take care of my ass. She has some kind of funny story about
yes,
ass.
she's the butt of all the jokes. Everybody wants to ask me how she is all the time. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. What's your ass's name?
Her name is Gypsy, and she's always getting into trouble. She gets into stuff if she finds a door that's cracked open on the house, she will actually let herself in the house. And yes, she knows
Oh,
where the fruit bowl is in the kitchen,
I
and she'll
love
go
it.
try to find the fruit. It's
Oh, you need to
yes.
put her on social media. I see animals like that all the time. That would be so much fun. Oh my
It
gosh.
it would, except for that there's, my husband does not like the fact that she goes in the house like that. He has a heart attack every time she goes in, but he does leave the doors open too sometimes, and she gets in and he's like, "How did she get in?" And I'm like, "Well,
Well,
you left the door open this time."
who knows, right? It's a mystery.
Exactly.
It's a
Exactly.
mystery. So, all right. So let's get back to insurance because this is really, really important in the state of Florida, especially. We are in what I call hurricane season, June 1st to November 30th now. And floods. We had some rain here. We had a rain event a couple weeks ago. And can you just tell us, there are so many letters and on the map, what what makes it, an area, what designates it as a flood area, flood zone?
So the ground level is 0. Every place in the state of Florida has a flood zone assigned to it. So every place in Florida, pretty much every place anywhere, is susceptible to flood. Florida is, lowlands pretty much all over the state, and the flood zones vary. They're usually letters A, H, V, C, X, B, depends. It could be A1 through A30. It just has those translate to how far above or below sea level that you are. It's above sea level, far enough. X flood zone means that you can get a preferred flood rate. When you're in an X zone, most of the banks don't require you to have flood insurance. They figure that you're far enough above sea level that you're not really going to get flooded, which is normally true. But there is always the rain event. There is always the time that the water management district might not get the canals down fast enough. We
Right.
could have tidal surge. After Hurricane Andrew down in Dade County, we had huge tidal surge all down in Palmetto Bay, Saga Bay, all that area down there had flooding come way, way in.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much at that point, it's all bets off. You're in an area that could flood. It just could happen. It depends on which way a hurricane comes in,
Yeah.
as to what tidal surge that we're going to get and where it's going to go. And then, but a lot of people do not carry flood insurance if the quote unquote bank does not require it in an X flood zone.
Yeah.
So
But I think you were the one that told me if you're letter X, you still have a letter in the game, and
Yep.
and it is unpredictable. How much does it cost? Just a ballpark figure. What does it cost per year to have flood insurance? Is it really breaking the bank here?
Well, flood insurance used to be if you got a preferred flood insurance policy in an X zone, meaning you
Yeah.
didn't have to have it, but you chose to carry it anyway. We used to run maybe $200 to $300 a year, but because of all of the floods that have been happening, and it's impacted all around the country as to who, where the flood rates are set. So they've all increased, and now there's surcharges on it if it's not your primary home, but average homes in like an AH flood zone are running anywhere between say $1,200 to $1,500 a year.
Okay.
There's homes that were built over, like, say, east near Hollywood. We'll use Hollywood as
Yeah.
an example because
Yeah.
everybody knows it floods over in that area. They're
Unfortunately.
what's called negatively rated, which means that the houses were built and they're considered below flood zone. So when you have a negative elevation, meaning that they've checked the lowest floor in your house,
Yeah.
that makes the flood insurance even more expensive. I mean, we have clients in the Keys where
Yeah.
their flood insurance is $17,000, $18,000, $20,000 a year for their flood insurance.
Wow. Okay. So 1,500 or less sounds like a bargain compared to that. And
Exactly.
your average house, it might be 500 or something, just off the top of my head. But I think it's better to be safe than sorry. And 500 or up to 1,000, whatever a year, is way better than all the damage that could potentially happen, in a rain event, in a flood event. So, okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. You hear that? I think letter X, it's still in the game. Be smart and just get it. You know what? You spend money worse ways. Spend the money the right way to be safe. Okay. And as a realtor, I advise my clients to do that too. I can't make you do it, but I think it's wise. I do. All right. So there's another thing, speaking about real estate, 4-point and wind mitigation inspections. These are the bane of the existence.
Yes.
The make or break a deal here. And everyone wants to be safe. We do. So what are the 4 points in the 4-point inspection? What are those for, the acronym?
So the 4 points on the 4-point inspection that they look at is your roof, your plumbing, your electrical, and your AC.
Okay.
Basically what they're looking for on your roof is the age and condition of the roof.
Right.
Is there cupping on the shingles, meaning that the shingles have like rolled up because they're old and they've lost the granules off of them and they're curling up? Is there missing shingles? Are there cracked tiles? Is there any leaks that are showing? That's what they're looking for on the roof. They also want to see, at least per citizens, at least 5 years. Most of the useful life left. Most of the homeowners insurance carriers are looking at, a lot longer than that. If you've got a roof that's, pushing 14 to 15 years old, you're probably going to have some problems with it. Wow. The electrical, there's some electrical boxes that they used to put in that are fire hazards. They're looking at those to see which box you actually happen to have. If you have to change an electrical box on a house, could cost you $1,500 to $2,000. I know that you've dealt with some of those recently. Yes, they're also looking for double taps and that you have the correct amperage for the house. Double taps means that you have 2 wires going into 1 breaker, and that's another issue that could be a fire hazard.
Right.
Your plumbing, they're looking to make sure that all of your lines, supply lines, are good. Your supply line coming from your washing machine is good, that you don't have the accordion looking piping under the sinks, that your valves are not corroded. They're looking for
pipes
and poly pipes. Yes. Poly pipes. Poly pipes. Yes.
Yeah. Bad experience with that. Yeah. Some of my clients. So yeah, it's really important to find out before,
Exactly. And those are the things, those are the main things. The air conditioner, they're looking for the life of that. They're also looking at the age of the water heater, because these are things that, if there's a problem with it and, you're going to have a fire, you're going to have a flood in the house. And those are the things that the insurance company looks at. And, we educate realtors. We do talks with realtors. We do meetings for realtors so that you as a realtor, if you're going in with a buyer and or a seller, you kind of know some of the things to look for that can, you can get it fixed ahead of time. If you're selling a house down here in South Florida, spending $2,000 to fix a electrical box, get it done and over with, because it's going to be a problem for the buyer. It's going to be a point of contention. So if you get some of this stuff taken care of ahead of time, it's always helpful.
Yeah, it truly is. When you go to sell your house, take care of the roof if you have to. If you're going to live there another 5 years and the roof, if you can do it. And there are so many programs out there now that you can, finance it, or you get a grant or what have you. And when you go to sell the house, you can just pay it off. So it's not something that you're tied to. So,
Yeah. And Governor DeSantis signed back into, they put legislation through, and he signed back into this year for the My Safe Florida Home program to be funded additionally, which is really great.
Yeah.
And the priority is going with our older residents, which is really good because, you can upgrade a lot of homes. When we talk about the wind mitigation in a minute, a lot of homes will have, for instance, glass block in a bathroom. That was like a popular thing back in the late 80s and 90s, where you put glass block in a bathroom or in a wall. Well, a lot of times people don't put a shutter over that, and glass block is not impact resistant. So it's always like one of those things that everything else qualifies on the house for the wind mitigation except for the glass block. This program, you could go and get shutters put over it or replace it, and the program will offer funds towards you doing that. It helps with the roof as well. It's a really good program, and I'm really glad they brought it back and funded it, because a lot of people have benefited.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so the wind mit, what's the story with the wind mitigation inspection?
So the wind mitigation inspection is to give you credits. It's checking to see how the roof is strapped down to the house. It could be toenails, it could be clips, it could be single wraps, it could be double wraps. Depending on which one it is, depends on how many credits you get and how much off of your insurance. There's a secondary water resistance credit. That's if you have a secondary water barrier that's underneath your shingles or your metal or your tile roof. Not everybody does it. It's a little bit more money to have it done. It's not a big deal if you don't have it. It's not a huge credit. But the main thing that they're looking at is they're looking at the nail patterns to make sure that you have the upgraded nails when you have a roof redone, and to see that every window and door opening, so any entry and exit doors of any kind to the house, including the garage door, and any window opening, whether it be glass block or a window, is covered or has a to code door or window, meaning it's to current impact and wind resistant codes. And those all give you credits off of your insurance. And, there's times when we see huge credits coming back on those because you've got everything done.
Yeah. And, it doesn't necessarily have to break your deal, a real estate transaction. The person can buy the house because, there as is contracts in the state of Florida, most of them, if not all. And you can go ahead and buy it. And then a couple months down the road, after you've replaced the garage door or what have you, you can get the credit. They'll change. You'll adjust the insurance cost. So it's not necessarily a complete deal breaker. So that is the light at the end of the tunnel there. You can get in the house that you want to get into. Just, have to maneuver a little bit, but it is doable. Yes.
Yeah. Some of the companies will allow, it's either kind of it's called an A1 discount, meaning that every opening to the house is correctly covered with current to code doors or windows, or you can possibly get an A2 or an A3, meaning that maybe the garage door isn't done or a side entry door to the garage isn't done, but everything else is done. And there are a few companies that will give you partial credit for that. And like you said, if everything's done but the garage door, which is like a very common occurrence now,
extremely common.
$2,000 to $4,000 after you get in the house to replace the garage door, you just get your wind mitigation updated and you are good to go. We can apply the credit midterm, and then they'll prorate the credit out for you, and you keep getting it. And the credits are usually enough to pay to cover that cost in a year or two.
Yeah.
So it's well worth doing.
Definitely. Okay. So we've covered all of these insurance-y things. Now we're going to get into some fun stuff. Any fun insurance stories you want to share with us, Deb?
So I have two stories for you. Years ago, my grandparents lived up in Moorhaven, which is up off of US 27 up near Lake Okeechobee. Yeah. And we would go up there and visit them on the weekends. And we actually lived up there for a couple of years. And one of my friends that I made when I was up there, I met her grandparents at a parade that they had. And I noticed that both of her grandparents on the inside of their arms had a lot of scarring on their arms. Oh, wow. And her grandmother had said the parade had to do with something up there. And the grandmother had said, how long have you been in Florida? And started talking to me. And she showed me her arms. And she said, back in the 1920s, there was a hurricane that came through. And around Lake Okeechobee now, there's a huge dike around the lake. And they've actually recently, the Corps of Engineers has reinforced it, made it thicker, and made it a little taller. But the reason that that dike is there is back in 1928, there was a hurricane that came through, and it created almost like a tidal wave on Lake Okeechobee, came across Lake Okeechobee and flooded the entire area, all the little towns around it. And her grandparents were newly engaged. Their house got flooded, and they clung on to two palm trees. I think they're the sable palm trees.
Yes.
And it cut up their arms because they were on them for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Holding on to them at two trees right next to each other. And when they were, like I said, they had just gotten engaged and they were very young when it happened. And so after that storm that created them, the Corps of Engineers came in and started building that wall around the lake because of what happened, because it's so shallow that, you know, the way that it came across, it was really rough. It was a bad situation that happened back then. A lot of people lost everything. And so, but we have a client that we've had insured for many, many years, and they are in the food space, and they have a gigantic frozen warehouse. And there was a small fire over one of the freezers. It actually, one of the units was overheating, and it melted a light, and the light dripped down onto the insulation, and the paper on the insulation started smoldering. I'm not going to say what fire department, but the fire department came in to put the fire out because they thought it was a big fire. And they opened the doors to the cold storage warehouse, and all of the products started defrosting, and they had to fight with the fire department to shut the doors because basically the fire was out. It was just smoldering a little bit. It wasn't a big area. And all of the product in the warehouse was defrosting, and it ended up costing the client millions and millions of dollars in lost product. They ended up having to lose all the product, and it was not having proper training at the fire department. And actually the fire departments went back there and actually trained on how to handle a situation in a cold storage facility like that because of what happened. I think they lost $8 million in product over the fact that the doors were left open. And it was, like I said, it was a training situation. And the fire department has since, had 2 or 3 different groups come out to train there to understand how that if this ever happens again in a cold storage facility, which we have a lot of them, how to handle it in a fire. We run across some very crazy things, but the client actually was telling the fire department, this is how you need to handle this situation, and close the doors and stop trying to run it that way. It was really something. It was I believe it was Father's Day weekend. And my husband and my son were on site for the whole time that they were there, and back the next day, and it was crazy. It was a crazy time.
Well, that will never happen again.
No, right. They've been trained now, thankfully, and so the fire department, everything's a learning opportunity. Every situation you come across for anybody is always there's always a learning opportunity. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you one other thing. I know that you're involved with a lot of boards and things for insurance, and you also are active in the community, and you help out in schools, not just educating realtors. Can you expand upon that a little bit, where you've taught in the past, and or are you going to continue doing that in the coming year or so?
So yeah, there is a program. It's on a local level, a state level, and a national level, and it's called Invest. Okay. And it's teaches the kids. It's actually geared towards seniors, but juniors and seniors take the class. They usually take it through the Academy of Finance in the school or through DECA or DCT. They have part of their program that they teach in school touches upon insurance, but it's an eight classes that we go into the schools and we teach it. Okay. And it talks about how insurance started over in London with Lloyd's of London. And it goes, we show the kids the building and talk about how it used to be this little tiny cafe, and how when the ships were coming across years and years ago, and they had a load of goods that they were sending across, how everybody would give a little bit and it would insure. That's how it started, is they would insure these loads, and if it made it over, they kept the money. And if the ship sank along the way, the money that those guys invested went to the person who owned the ship. And that's how insurance started. And then we talked to them about all the different kinds of insurance, because there's so many different kinds of insurance, and the opportunities for them to get into the insurance field. And we've taught, our program is in Broward County. It's through independent insurance agents in Broward County. And we've taught at Archbishop McCarthy. We have a really big program up at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. They are a big program. They've been statewide, locally, and nationally. They always win a lot of money at that school in scholarships. We've done Cooper City High School. We've done, oh my goodness, Pompano Beach, Deerfield Beach, Flanagan High School.
Wow. So all over South Florida.
A lot of schools in Broward County. And we're open if there's any teachers that are involved in that program. We give 2 $500 scholarships a year to each school that we're involved with. And it's a great time. Everybody always learns something. And a lot of times the kids that are in the class, one of the first classes that we teach is auto insurance. And most of the kids, we tell them, okay, when you come into the class for this particular class, we want you to bring your insurance information with you from your parents. And we show them, a lot of those kids are not getting a good student discount. So we show them where it is on the information they have, tell them to get a copy of the report card if they have a 3.0 or better, and take it home. And we've gotten such feedback from the parents, like they save a lot of money because their kids have a 3.0 GPA, and it gives them about a 20 to 25% discount on their car insurance for the kids.
That's a great
big in South Florida.
Grades up. That's right. I had to ask, as you know, I used to be a teacher, and I'm all about education. And so, you know, it's the more you know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring it back to South Florida. Can you tell me, what is one of your favorite places to visit or things to do in South Florida? I always ask my guests that.
So I love the Everglades. We don't get out as much in that area as we used to, but I love the Everglades. We used to go out into Flamingo a lot and go fishing back there. It's very kind of old Florida and peaceful. And spend a lot of time in the Keys, on the water in the Keys. And I love it. It's, you know, part of being in South Florida is being able to be out on the water wherever you're at and be enjoying the sunshine.
Yeah, the funshine. I really love that. Oh, that's great. I'm gonna use that funshine. Hey.
Yes.
So this podcast, it goes all over the country. So I really do like to share the funshine with everyone across the state and beyond, because we have so many wonderful places to visit in South Florida. The people are great. The food is great. Seafood, you know, you can't go wrong down here. It's fresh. My family's in the Midwest, and like, we don't get the fish like you do, you know, you're so lucky. So I appreciate a lot of things. I know you do. And I have to tell you, I appreciate your friendship, your expertise so much. You know, you and I met at the Davie Cooper City Chamber of Commerce, and I'm ever so grateful for that. And, you know, it's all about learning from each other, helping each other with our businesses, forming great relationships, and just all about real life with Lee in South Florida.
Real life with Lee. Yeah. I love it. It's a great thing that you do. And I always appreciate being able to get information from you, because the real estate side, we don't always know as much about. And it's great to have a partnership that you can, and somebody that you can bounce things off of when you run into problems. And so we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And by you. So I think that's all the time we have for today. Debbie Iten, the Iten Agency, thank you so much for joining me today here. I hope that our audience learned a lot today about insurance. And if you haven't, please feel free to reach out to Debbie at Iten Agency. What is your contact information?
So our phone number at the office is 954-680-0360. Our agency is, the agency email is info@itenagency.com, and our website is itenagency.com, so you can pick up the email from there or the phone numbers as well.
Short and sweet. There you go. And I'm Leah Loney, South Florida Real Estate at our family-owned G&E Realty Group in the heart of Davie, Florida. And thank you so much for being with us here today. Have a great time in the Sunshine State and South Florida. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Deb.
Thanks for joining us on Real Life with Lee. If you love the show and it's helped you in any way, please subscribe and leave us your comments. We're all about helping each other in the community, and we're so appreciative of you. You're invited to share this episode on social media and with someone you know. Tune in next time to learn more about life in South Florida and Real Life with Lee.